We are Odd School Studios. The thoughts, the process, the work. This is our inner world.
A lot of fun to do this page. I think this really pushed me creatively, and I kind of got to play with some unique grids. So I'm excited to kind of share this with you all. But yeah, I think this is sort of our sort of first page, picking up after we have the big reveal of the Heed in page 14. And we kind of get to see this sort of, after this build up, sort of the damage that they really can do. This being a book that's intended for mid-grade, for sort of a slightly younger audience, I really struggled. I think what was the correct balance of making them appear scary but not being overly gruesome. And I think I think I struck that balance, but I think I still also, you don't want to sacrifice the cool factor,
No.
for trying to tame it down. But yeah, I think there was a lot of sort of play with angles on this page, and also just showing just the fear of the ants combined with the aggression and intensity of these Aheed.
Yeah, I mean, you say you were trying to like keep the aggression down, but I'm pretty sure that in this panel there's an ant just chowing down on another ant, which is great, and it should be
Yeah.
because these Aheed are not meant to they're not there to be friendly, and they're not there to even have discourse. They're there just to purely get rid of any other ant that's not a part of their Aheed colony.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
we say we watch the violence, but I think it's hard to talk and show the Heed without that.
right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, exactly. There was definitely a Heed in the background that is, I was actually careful not to have him making contact, actually eating in that moment. But, I think a lot of the play you kind of have to do when you're trying not to be overly violent is to more so imply violence of yeah, what's about to happen, but we don't need to show it. That kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the best horror trope ever. Sometimes what's left to the imagination is more scary than the actual reveal. But it's very clear what's about to happen in that page, that image that's currently going on right now. It's pretty clear to
Yeah.
see what's happening there.
Yeah. 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 But I think for me, the most important thing with having that type of thing, because we have throughout the rest of this page, it's more so you show an ant with an Aheed in the background, or in the case of our bottom left panel, the Aheed hands in the foreground, and so it was important to me to show both a sense of dominance and scale, and in terms of they're not massively bigger, but they are larger. They're more powerful
Yeah.
than the rest of our ants in the book, and I think that was really important to show, because I think if you don't have that direct, one-to-one kind of moment where the Heed has literally got its hands, its claws over the other ant's arms, and you see how much bigger its hands are, and even its head, that its head is bigger, and it's clearly just it has control in this moment. You kind of lose a little bit of that sort of, I guess, point of comparison that I think is really important in these kind of moments.
Yeah, and then also just you both know that basically all the four great colonies are all gathered together, but yet the Aheed still are outnumbering them and still forcing them to run. So it even amplifies the danger that has come to this colony right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think, yeah, talking about numbers here, I think it's that was one of those things I really struggle with on this page, because you know I think as an artist on a comic, it's an important balance to strike of, you want to you want to show if there's a large number of something, you want to show that large number, but it's you don't want to sit there and finely detail, especially if it's something with more human characteristics. You don't want to sit there and finally detail every single thing, because you're gonna spend way too long on a page, zooming in on something that nobody's gonna see except for you, especially if it's something like that, where it's they're piling out of that door. And so, we talked about in the previous video where we discussed the Heed, a point of comparison was obviously talking about zombies. These are essentially our zombies of sort of these desert fields. It's this horde, and so it was points of comparison, thinking about this was sort of things like World War Z, or um, where you see just there's this pile of something, almost like they're jammed up, if you almost like you have a river trying to escape out of a passageway.
Yes,
You're
yeah.
not going to see the entirety of the river, but you can clearly see that they're crawling through, they're trying to force, and even just the way I was able to sort of imply with like blacking out that background and just having dots of light where the eyes are, I think was helpful to sort of do more implication rather than having to sit there and draw, 1,000 ants. I could draw maybe 15 and you still get the idea.
Yeah, no, I think like we talked about this briefly last video. They're more so like a force of nature, so like implying like a force of river that's just gushing through this tunnel. You're not going to be able to stop it. It's like it's going to about to flush out everything. And I kind of like how in this panel the ants that are running from the heat, there are somewhat different reaction. Like the girl on the top left, like she's obviously terrified, she's running, but then you have three of our main characters who kind of like in this point of like being stunned, because in ant lore it's kind of like vaguely spoken about, like the heat are kind of like this mythos, whether they're real or not we don't really know. Some people like think they're definitely real, some people are like there's no way. But it's kind of like this moment is like, what if like all these like things that we have, like these mythologies of creatures, like what if they just like showed up one day like at a sports game and we're like, oh my goodness, like vampires are real, they're all here right now. That's like kind of like the version of these ants within their like world. Like now like this idea, this terrifying nightmare that they used to tell like their baby ants now like really come into fruition, and like some are stunned, some are running, and some are just like can't even believe what they're seeing. It's kind of like this like huge overarching thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was helpful, Jacob, that you sort of set up. I think in a way that it feels so heavy-handed in the dinner conversation. I guess what, like 4 pages ahead of this, we're just almost offhandedly, you sort of come in sort of in media res of a conversation that's going on between these three ants where they're like, oh, did you really see them? And Rajul is like describing the Ahid, and you sort of like, you kind of catch the tail end, but you can kind of like, that they're talking about this kind of strange thing. And it sort of is like, it does a little bit of foreshadowing, without being like holding the reader's hand too much, because we're building for this thing that is happening pretty much immediately after this dinner conversation. And so it's nice to sort of go ahead and foreshadow and prime the reader that there is something out there maybe that the main characters need to be, I guess, wary of or be careful of.
Yeah. And like what our whole cast of characters is about to figure out is that the heat are kind of one of the many of dangers that are about to be faced in, and they're about to have to like learn all of these different mythos within ant society are real. And now that the colony has destroyed and they're all on the run, they're all about to figure that out. So if you want to know more, if you want to know more of what ants fear, what ants talk about, then you should subscribe and watch.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for following along.